start and introduce you to Ken Mergen, our Vice President of Group Retirement Plans. Ken?
Thank you, Amanda. And today I'm joined with Rob Mangano, who's our Director of Client Relations. Rob and I are going to both be handling the presentation and passing this back and forth a little bit. And then, as Amanda mentioned, opening it up to some questions and answers at the end that we can, hopefully get some of those questions or concerns that you have answered right away. First, I just want to take a moment to really truly just say thank you, not only for taking the time today, but RPA is focused specifically on public sector retirement plans. And most importantly, we appreciate what you do in our communities, particularly during these very difficult and turbulent times. Quite simply, we just want to say thanks. With that, let's dig in. For those of you not familiar with us, RPA is an independent registered investment advisor. We're specialists in public sector retirement programs. That includes 457B deferred compensation plans, as well as 401A plans, 403B plans. We have approximately 650 plans with more than $4 billion in retirement plan assets. Our services are very comprehensive, including both plan level as well as participant level. So we have comprehensive plan design services, ongoing plan consulting, and advisory services at the plan level. For many of you, you may have heard the terms 321 or 338 investment advisor. Those are some popular terms that are actually codes in the ERISA code that points to who has the responsibility and ultimately fiduciary liability for the investment menu and due diligence and investment selection, ongoing monitoring, and that sort of thing. So we handle all of that at the plan level. At the participant level, we also have advisors in our plans in 27 different states. They are out day after day with employees providing education, retirement counseling, and most importantly, investment advice. So we do hold ourselves out as a fiduciary, both at the plan level as well as the participant level. So today, what we wanted to go through is regarding the COVID-19 and CARES Act that was recently passed. We'll go into a little background on the CARES Act, provisions that affect specifically public sector plans. So we really took a moment. There is a lot of information out there. It's coming through at a rapid pace right now. We tried to synthesize that and put together really just those components that pertain to public sector retirement plans. So we'll cover required minimum distributions, or commonly referred to as RMDs, the newly created coronavirus-related distributions, with the new acronym CRDs, which include loans and CRD withdrawal distributions. We'll talk about how, as the plan sponsor, if interested, you enact, or what they're referring to as make the affirmative election to choose to adopt those provisions in your plan, and then go through some plan design thoughts and considerations. Again, what we'll learn is that these provisions are optional, so there is a lot of thought that needs to go into your current plan today, your current plan design, your plan documents, what you have today for plan features and provisions, and how these may fit in with those. And then, as mentioned, open it up for some discussion at the end. So the CARES Act, the acronym stands for the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act. This was in direct response to COVID-19. It was signed into law on March 27th, which was a Friday, just about 11 or 12 days ago. This was a little unique in that this was the minute that this was signed into law, it was effective immediately. There was no grace period or period to ramp up or effective date that was down the road. So many of us in the industry, as it pertains to retirement plans, and as well all the other components of the CARES Act with small business administration, that kind of thing, is really it. The information is coming in as we speak. It's very fluid. There's updates and interpretation coming in truly every moment right now. The CARES Act was part of a larger 2.2 trillion relief package, which many of us are aware of. That, to put it in perspective, was the largest in US history. It was more than twice as large as the relief package that was enacted during the financial crisis in February of 2009. Over 2.5 times the size of that package. So truly an extremely large stimulus package. Another point of just perspective, back in 2008, 2009, during the financial crisis, it took Congress months to enact that package. This 2.2 trillion relief package was passed in a matter of weeks. Part of the reason that was able to go through quickly, what we have noticed is some of the regulations in the CARES Act are from things that we have experienced in the past. One notably the DTRA, or the Disaster Tax Relief Act of 2017, that provided relief for Hurricanes Harvey, Irma, and Maria victims. So some of the things that we see, similar like the required minimum distributions I'll talk about in a minute, we've done this before. When we're in times where financially stressed, and the idea is that we don't want to put folks in a more financially stressed situation or at a disadvantage tax-wise. So the CARES Act includes several items applicable to all qualified retirement programs, both public sector, private sector, IRAs. Today we're going to focus really just on 3, the required minimum distributions, and then the 2 new CRDs, as they're referred to, the loans and withdrawal distributions. First, the required minimum distributions. That's folks that are over age 70 and a half that are receiving the required distributions. Basically, they were suspended for all of calendar year 2020. So anyone that is currently a participant taking a distribution or a beneficiary, those are waived this year. They do not have to take that required minimum distribution. It also includes those individuals that attained age 70 and a half last year in 2019 and had a required begin date of April 1. Those folks as well are not required to take that distribution this year. And again, the idea is that distribution has tax consequences and could potentially put people in a further financial need. So the CRD eligibility, the big question with the new loans and CRD distributions is who is eligible for this? So this is cut right out of the Secretary of the Treasury. I put this line by line. It's truly anyone diagnosed with the virus SARS-CoV-2 or with the coronavirus 2019 disease, COVID-19, by a test that's approved by the CDC and prevention. It also relates to a spouse or dependent that's diagnosed with the virus, anyone experiencing adverse financial consequences as a result of being quarantined, furloughed, or laid off, anyone having work hours reduced due to the virus or disease, being able to work due to lack of childcare, closing or reducing hours of a personally owned or operated business, and the last bullet, which you'll hear there's a common theme, this is moving quickly and things are certainly subject to change. There may be other factors that are later determined by the Treasury. However, for now, this is the list of everyone that is eligible for the newly created corona-related distributions. And what's unique with these distributions and plan provisions, unlike other distributions that we have in workplace savings plans, traditionally the employer has responsibility over the movement of funds if there's withdrawals taken in the plan. In this situation, to ease this, there's language where the participant is able to self-certify that list that we just went over to determine eligibility. So the responsibility traditionally, which is on the plan sponsor to sign off on distributions, does not pertain to these CRD distributions. So truly the responsibility is on the employee. It is not on you, the plan sponsor. I know that's unique and we may have some questions on that at the end. With that, I'm going to hand it over to Rob to talk a little more about the loans and CRD distributions.
Thanks, Ken, and thanks everybody for joining today. I'm Rob Mangano. I'm the Director of Client Relations for Retirement Plan Advisors. And just to echo Ken's comments, I want to thank you all for your leadership during this time and helping our communities. And so what I'm going to start out with is just going through the 3 key provisions that are, in keeping with Ken's comments, relying upon self-certification, and then how those work and what you might want to think about if whether you're going to adopt those or not for your plan. As Ken mentioned, we're only 11 days into this, so everything has been kind of a fluid process, but we're excited to talk to you about this today and walk you through these provisions. The first is going to be the ability to take new, larger size loans from qualified plans. And this is going to be a loan up to $100,000, taking into account any outstanding loans that you might have. So for example, if I had a loan for $10,000 outstanding, I'd be able to take one of these new CRD, coronavirus related distribution loans for $90,000. The window to take this loan from the guidance that we're receiving is a 180-day period, starting on the enactment date, which was when the President and Congress signed this into law on March 27th. And if we look 180 days out from then, it is September 23rd is the date that we're coming out with. So they're going to have to, opt to take that loan within that time period. The loan repayments on these loans are going to be delayed for 1 year. So the way that I am, reading the regulations and the provisions and the way they've come out, if I take a loan June 1st of 2020, I'm going to have until June 1st, 2021 to start my repayments. The repayments, when they commence, will reflect any delay with the interest accrued for that time period. So that's something to keep in mind, that when you are looking to get these amortization schedules back, or the participants are from the record keeper, it's going to include the delay and the interest accrued during that time. A couple of key things with your plan document: if you don't offer loans presently, your plan document would need to be amended to take advantage of this provision. And then if you allow one loan, for example, and a participant were to have an outstanding loan balance in that one loan, they wouldn't be able to take out one of these larger size loans unless you amended your plan to have, multiple loans. The other considerations that we're looking at for plan sponsors is that, first of all, this is an optional provision. As a firm at RPA, we don't encourage loans. We feel there's a huge opportunity cost for having your money out of the market. However, in these really unprecedented times, it is a disciplined way for a participant to in a disciplined fashion replenish their account over a longer time period than a distribution. I'll talk about those distributions shortly, but additionally, I want to just mention that our advisors all act in a fiduciary capacity. So they'll work with participants to help them understand the tax ramifications that go along with this, and try and look at all their assets in aggregate and pull from assets that won't impact their long-term tax-advantaged retirement plans if they can avoid it. The next provision is what I like to call a loan leniency provision. It's basically existing plan loan relief. So this is an extension of your repayment period that you have on outstanding loans. What happens is from enactment, once again, on 3/27 through the end of this year, with participants having possibly lost wages or unexpected costs maybe in their family, they'd be able to stop these loan payments, have a little bit more cash flow coming to them. And during this time period, these loans will not go into default. They will not be considered delinquent, and they also will not be deemed a taxable distribution. And just like the repayments for the new larger sized CRD loans, the accrued interest would accumulate during this time period, and that would have to be taken into account for repayments. The withdrawal provision that was announced with the CARES Act is the CRD withdrawal provision, or coronavirus related distribution. And this one really offers a variety of benefits for adopting this into your plan. And really, if it's a plan that maybe you don't have loan provisions, this is a new distribution type. So what we're seeing in the text and reading these provisions is that it's any distribution taken from January 1, 2020 till the end of the year, you can take up to $100,000, and it's tax favored, meaning that there's no 20% mandatory withholding, and the participant can pay this back within 3 years and not incur any tax liability. And then the taxable income would be ratably reported over 3 years. That 100,000 is an aggregate maximum, so it's going to look at an individual's entire qualified plan picture, and as well as looking at IRAs. So the participant could take it from a variety of sources, but if they took 100,000, they just have to make sure they pay back 100,000 in total, regardless of where they pay it back to. This is not your responsibility as a sponsor, but that is how they wrote these provisions. Once again, this does not need to be adopted today. This is optional. You may find as the weeks go by within your jurisdiction, your municipality, that things are getting tougher within your community. And so you may want to add this for a little added flexibility. We were on a call with one of our clients a couple of days ago, and they're not having any lost wages just yet within their jurisdiction, but they just wanted to add this to have a little bit more, like I said, flexibility in their plan design. And once again, that withdrawal needs to be taken by the end of the year. So if you did adopt this, you would not, participants would not have the ability to do this beyond the end of 2020. As far as how these CRD provisions are enacted, first and foremost, you want to check with your record keeper to make an affirmative election. We have seen, varying ways of doing this, whether it's just an email, whether there's an election form, whether there's a request for change in plan operation. Just depends on what your record keeper is calling it. You're going to want to check with them on that. For plan amendments, this is one of the key things that we do at RPA. From a consultancy standpoint, when I meet with clients and we do annual reviews, I like to call it our annual plan enhancement process. We look at your document and make sure that your plan is operating in accordance with that document. And so typically, when we amend the plan to take on new provisions, it has to be amended no later than the last day of the plan year that the provision or the change is going to be effective. That is not the case here. For all the calls I've been on and all the pieces that I've read, you will basically operate your plan and then amend later. So operate and then amend based on these CARES Act provisions that are being made available. 70% of plans are on a calendar year and not fiscal. So if you think about the timeline that we have until 2024 will be the last day of the plan year in 2024. So you have quite a while to amend your document / your adoption agreement to be in compliance with adding these provisions. As far as your current plan document and your current design, you really want to look at what options you currently have. So if you just have, a hardship provision and you don't offer loans, do you feel that that's enough? It's something you have to look at based on your demographics of your people. So do you have folks that work in public health, public safety? Are you in a geographic location that's been, hard hit? We have clients in 27 states, including New Jersey, Connecticut, Illinois, Louisiana, Michigan. And so a lot of these areas have been hard hit. So you want to look at that. And then once again, these are all optional, whether you're doing the increased maximum loan, the delay in the repayments, or you're just looking at those coronavirus related new distribution type. These once again are all optional. Plan design thoughts. So operationally and transactionally, how is this going to work? Well, you want to maintain your election form and put that in your file, your fiduciary file from your record keeper. Sponsors are going to want to work with their record keepers and should receive re-amortized loan schedules for existing loans. And then with the delayed repayments, and new loans that will require payroll deductions once the 1-year delay is up. We are here to help. We're an agnostic registered investment advisor. Please keep in mind that these are not fiduciary decisions. So Ken alluded to 321 and 338 investment advisor within the ERISA code. That's a fiduciary decision. This is not. These are what they call settler functions. So for example, if you look at your plan and you're a 457 plan and all you have is that unforeseen emergency request hardship, and you feel that, you know, that's a little stringent and it's a little hard to get money based on that, you may want to offer the CRD distribution just to give your participants, you know, a monetary bridge to get them through this, you know, short-term event. And I think that'll be, you know, something you need to look at, and that needs to be needs-based, based on your plan design. Difference maker, once again, I believe with RPA is that our advisors are boots on the ground in your local communities, and they are investment advice fiduciaries. And so I think they could really help participants weather the storm and give them, you know, perspective, because they've been through, you know, a lot of different events throughout, you know, many decades, and provide sound advice. To echo Ken's comments, thanks again for all that you do and helping your communities run. With that, I am going to hand it back to Ken. He's going to go over our RPA promise, where we bring Wall Street to Main Street, and then we're going to try and answer your questions. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks, Rob. And yeah, I can't stress enough, for those of you folks that aren't familiar with us, if you have any questions, if you have thoughts or ideas or concerns, anything to do with plan design or participant servicing, if your folks aren't getting the advice you feel they need, we take a lot of pride in working with specifically public sector entities. We live that day in and day out. We know your demographics. We know and understand the folks that make communities work. Part of that, we put together our promise, which truly is how we run our business and what we focus on every day. I think it's worth just a couple of minutes. Let me read this to you, and then we'll hop into some questions and answers. RPA's focus on public employees underscores a profound commitment and understanding of the people who make our communities work. We never forget the person sitting across the table is depending on us to protect their hard-earned retirement. We meet face-to-face with employees year after year as they continue to plan their retirement and future financial security. We offer unbiased investment advice. As an independent firm, we have the freedom to design retirement solutions that are right for each individual. We provide even the smallest communities with the same high-quality retirement plans and advice found on Wall Street. We act with integrity, respect, and responsiveness to every individual. Below, you'll see our phone number there. It can be as simple as just having a conversation. Feel free to give us a call, or if you're more comfortable, email us. We'll get right back to you and have a conversation. With that, Amanda, we can open the floor for questions. I would strongly encourage everyone, use that chat feature, or I believe there's a raise your hand feature. If you have any questions, Rob and I will be glad to address those.
That's correct. If you use your cursor and find the participant button, you'll be able to raise your hand at that feature. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to chat in now or raise that hand. I'm not seeing anything currently on chat. I know there was a couple questions on whether or not these slides would be made available, and they will be. We will be sending out an email after this presentation. So we'll give a little time to see if anyone has any questions. Oh, it looks like we have a question. Ron, I'm going to allow you to ask that question. So go right ahead, sir.
Thank you. I was just wondering on the that you don't have to take the requirement minimum distributions this year. What happens to somebody who took requirement distributions on a monthly basis? They started doing it on a monthly basis in January, February, March. They had distributions. Could those distributions go back into the IRA, or what's the status of those? What could you do with those?
Ron, that's a great question. The guidance that we have received, and being on a lot of these calls and getting a lot of literature on this, is that the recontribution should be made available, and so you should be able to put these back if you did take an RMD before that 3/27 date of enactment.
What about the 60-day rule then? That doesn't count?
This is Ken. That's correct. For this period, calendar year 2020, you're able to put any distribution you made due to a minimum required distribution, you can put that money right back in. The rollover rules, the 60-day rollover rules, do not apply for these RMDs and recontributing for that period from January 1st to March 27th.
So, all right. So if you took a distributions in January, February, and March, you're saying you could put them back into the IRA.
That's correct, and you can stop your monthly distributions as well because they're no longer required this year.
Right, yep. Right. Because I was under, someone had said that you could only put it back if it's less than 60 days. So.
Right. Those rollover rules do not apply in this situation.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yep. Great question.
We have a question from Mark. He asks, is the COVID eligibility for both loans and withdrawals, and are they self-determined?
Rob, if you want to take that, or I can.
Yeah, it is. It's purely self-certification. So we have seen that there may be a form that the record keeper would have them check off, which one of those particular instances that apply to them. There may be an attestation that a participant is going to give over a recorded phone line. It's just going to depend on how your record keeper is going to handle it, but it is purely self-certification. That's why we put on that one slide that the onus is on the participant and not the sponsor here.
Right, and that applies for both the loans, if you're going to take advantage of the loan provisions, or the CRD distributions.
Correct.
Either way, you need to meet those eligibility requirements and self-certify.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, I'm not seeing any. Okay, Ken and Rob, I'm not seeing any. So if anybody has any extra questions, or if you think of anything after the fact, just as Ken was saying, please feel free to reach out to us, and I'll let you guys say your endings and goodbyes.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. Again, don't hesitate to call. Sometimes it's just a conversation or someone to lean out to get some clearer definitions. We're here to help. We're all in this together. We know that. We focus on you and your communities, and we know that you're hard at work doing that. Feel free to lean on us for the financial aspect of your retirement plans. Always glad to help.
Thank you for taking the time today.